Right now, I'm going to go to the phones. Lucky enough to have one of the best in the business from ESPN, NBA, Brian Windhorst, Return of the King, LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the greatest comebacks in NBA history. That's out. Brian Windhorst joins us. All right, so honestly, 0 to 10, with 0 being no concern and 10 being they are toast and will get beat. What's the concern level for the Cavs right now?
Get beat when?
Like at all in the East.
Oh, I mean, have you? Oh, in the East?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe at 2.
Ooh,
I mean,
right.
3. At all? I mean, have you seen the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah.
Right.
The thing about it is that the teams in the East, there's no team that can really super match up with them in talent. If Boston had done something at the deadline and been able to get their hands on another big piece, I think we'd be having a very different conversation. The Cavs are definitely flawed, but you have to realize they're 25 and 4 in the East playoffs the last 3 years. I mean, it's been one-sided. So even somebody takes them to 6 games, I think they'll done a good job. I mean, they're vulnerable. If you play great against them, you might be able to get them 4 out of 7, but it's not something that I think is, definite right now.
What's so much different from last year's Cavaliers team comparison to this year's Cavaliers team?
They have terrible defensive habits. Terrible. And part of it is the players that they've acquired over the last few years have all been, offensive base players, like Channing Frye, Kyle Korver, Darren Williams. The only guy that they've really gotten in the last few years that you could say that's a defensive player is Andrew Bogut. He lasted 1 minute before he broke his leg. And they've lost a couple of players in Matthew Dellavedova and Timofey Mozgov, who were good defensive players. And then a couple of guys like Iman Shumpert. He used to be a good defensive player. He's awful now. I don't know what happened to him. He's terrible. And J.R. Smith, he was probably their best perimeter defender last year, and he missed most of the season, and he just hasn't been himself. Maybe he'll recover, but they just have bad defensive habits. And if and when they do lose, it'll probably be because of the defense.
Brian Windhorst with us right now. New book out, Return of the King. Let's talk about the Knicks real quick. What's going on with Carmelo Anthony? What's his future look like?
Well, if I was Carmelo, I wouldn't be focusing on The Great Gatsby. I'd be focusing on The Godfather. In Godfather 2, when the senator comes and asks him for a kickback, and Michael Corleone says, "You can have my offer right now. My offer is nothing." And that's what I would do if I was Carmelo. I would say to Phil, my offer is nothing. I will not waive my no-trade clause, which you stupidly gave me, and I can now hold over your head for as long as I please. If you want rid of me, you will have to release me. And that is what I would do if I was Carmelo, and I would say, otherwise, until you want to call and inform me of my outright release, I will see you on the first day of training camp in September. That would be the only conversation I would have with him. If you're Carmelo Anthony, you don't want to leave New York anyway. And if you're going to go to another team, you don't want the other team to have to trade half their roster to make it work. So I would ask for my outright release. So I got all my money, and I could be a free agent and go anywhere I wanted. That would be the negotiation, and that would be the only thing I would say.
Is that likely to happen here in the next few moments, or I should say a few months now that Phil's basically said, look, we want to move on from Carmelo?
If he wants to play the Game of Thrones, it would be.
Brian Windhorst with us. So all right, the other story coming out of this is Kristaps Porzingis skips his exit interview. Sign of unity with Melo, or is this a sign of bad things in the future for the Knicks?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. As far as I know, now I'm not in the practices, but I don't know if anybody on that team likes playing the triangle. Okay? And I also think that Carmelo is probably pretty well respected amongst his teammates, because even though he can be hard to play with at times, the guy is a consummate professional and I think pretty popular in the locker room. So you've got the general manager or the president, who you probably aren't in love with, trying to force an offense that you don't want to play down your throat and insulting a teammate. Not only that, the decisions that they've made with the roster over the last year haven't exactly made them better. And that's one of the ridiculous things that Phil said, that the team has been worse with Carmelo out there. That is actually not true. The team has been worse since Phil Jackson got there. When Carmelo was, and granted he was younger, but they won 50 games with Carmelo as the primary player. So, it's not Carmelo's fault that you re-signed him, gave him a no-trade clause, and then decided to run an offense and run a system that was completely contrary to his talents. It's not Porzingis' fault. That's not Melo's fault. And if I was Porzingis, I wouldn't want to sit there and listen to how I was demanded to come in to do triangle lessons over the summer when I don't agree and don't want to play that way anyway.
Brian Windhorst with us right now, NBA insider for ESPN on 104.5 The Team.
Brian, somehow, some way, Levack and I got into a heated discussion about the NBA playoff crowds in the free T-shirts that are offered up that everyone wears the same color in the crowd.
You know how your buddy J.J. Watt put one on and looked great.
Is it cool? Is it lame? Or should we not even care about this?
One of the things that happens in the NBA is everybody copycats everything. And so, I don't know who came up with it in the first place, but it looks kind of cool. And now one of the things is they give everybody in the crowd this, light up thing that you wear around your neck, and then the computers can change it and, make for light displays. And everybody runs the same pregame height videos. Generally the NBA is a copycat operation. So when it comes to crowd control, that's just sort of the way it is. I do think the playoff crowds in some venues are awesome, no matter what shirts they're wearing. And if it fires up your crowd, if that's what it takes, then you do it. But I think it's more about, these guys go to conventions in the off season and they go, yeah, we got, Bob's Big Boy to sponsor to give us $50,000 for the T-shirts. Let's see if we can get, whatever. I think that's part of it.
Brian Windhorst with us. Your book is Return of the King, LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the greatest comebacks in NBA history. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the last 2.5 years of the Cavaliers is one of the more remarkable stories you'll ever see in the NBA. Not just coming back from 3-1 down, but all the events that got LeBron. Think about the people that were involved. LeBron goes from Miami to Cleveland, destroys the Heat franchise in the process. LeBron, gets Kevin Love to come with him, which changes the entire Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. Affects the number 1 overall pick, Andrew Wiggins. We've never seen a number 1 overall pick get traded 2 months after he got drafted. It had a cascading effect just from 2014. Then you have this guy, David Blatt, who has one of the most crazy tenures of any coach, which culminates in him getting fired when he's in first place a week before he's about to coach the All-Star game. And none of that speaks to the fact of what happened when they were down 3-1 and Draymond Green hit LeBron in the groin and got suspended. And that's just what you know. What you don't know is the backstories, which is what was going on these private jets, what was going on in these secret meetings that involved the trades and the signings, and what was going on in the huddles, what was going on in the locker room during the games. Basically what happened was it was such a crazy way that the season ended, but everybody in the Cavs organization was all euphoric. So, my co-author and I slithered in there and got all these people to tell us all these stories before the high wore off, and we sort of collected them all and put them in this book.
I love it. I can't wait to check it out. Return of the King, LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the greatest comebacks in NBA history. Brian Windhorst, may I suggest Animal House for the Knicks next?
That's a funny movie. There's nothing funny about it.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, Legends of the Fall or something we'll go with.
That'll fire up the fans in the next playoff game in 12 years. Legends of the Fall in the pregame introduction.
Windy, man, we appreciate your time. Good luck with the book and keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime.